tour. More than tour. Sorry. At just 700 feet, that was the world's tallest building. Until 1913, when the Woolworth Building was completed in downtown Manhattan. And that took the title of world's tallest building. And in 1930, 10 months before the Empire State Building, the Chrysler Building held the title of world's tallest building. We've actually had 10 buildings constructed in New York City that have had that title of world's tallest building. 6 of them still stand. The MetLife Tower's lovely. That is actually most recent to have it was Credit Suisse First Boston, and that building is actually being converted to condominiums. Eventually, I think that project is stalled, but that's where it's headed. Now we have a new ugly name, and his is one of only 2 grave sites in the thoroughfares of New York, not in a cemetery. The other one being Grant's Tomb up on 122nd Street, Riverside Drive. We'll see that tomorrow.
You've been to New York before?
Many times. I worked in that building right there, and this one when I was a buyer for profits.
What are you talking about now? Last second. Yeah, stay on Broadway now. Thank you. 14th Street, Union Square. We got a little holiday market going on right there. Used to be taxis. We got 13,000 of them here in New York City. All here in Manhattan. They all operate almost entirely in Manhattan. For art, architecture, and engineering, founded in 1889 by Peter Cooper, and that's where in 1860 the Reverend Henry Ward Beecher invited a little-known representative from Illinois to speak on the topic of abolition, and his speech so electrified and impressed his audience that it really gave his presidential campaign the impetus for him to win to become the 16th president of the United States, Abraham Lincoln. You may not be so familiar with the name Henry Ward Beecher, but I'll bet you know his sister's name, Harriet Beecher Stowe, the author of Uncle Tom's Cabin. You guys probably know some folks from the southern United States still blame that book for the American Civil War. Getting into, well, right here, this little section is an acronym named neighborhood NoHo, which stands for North of Houston Street. In a moment we'll cross Houston Street, and then we'll be in Soho, which has nothing to do with the London neighborhood, the same name, but simply means south of Houston Street. Look at the buildings on our left here. You see this, the Best Buy and the David Z shoe store. These are examples of cast iron architecture, and Soho is also called the Soho Cast Iron District. It's the largest stand of cast iron architecture in the world. What I mean by cast iron architecture is the facade. In a little while we're going to be passing a building that I call the precursor to all skyscrapers. But we are now entering Soho, which is once again a major shopping district, as well as being a cast iron district. I say once again because Soho was built, originally developed to be a shopping district back in the 1830s, 170 years ago. It remained a shopping district until the 1860s and 70s, at which point all the fashionable shops started moving north uptown to the Ladies' Mile district. And so it became a manufacturing district right up until the 1950s, fabric and textile manufacturing. In the 1950s, all the manufacturing started moving out. And by the 1960s, this neighborhood that is now so busy, full of fashionable shops like Uniqlo and Steve Madden and Banana Republic. In the 1960s, this neighborhood was desolate, empty, abandoned, artist studios and galleries. And a building coming up here on the corner on the left with the Bay store. That's the building I was talking about. That was a cast iron building built in 1856, and in that building they had the very first Otis safety passenger elevator. So that little building back on the corner is essentially the precursor to all skyscrapers. So yes, the artists all moved in. And in the 1980s, Soho was known as whatever you can see in the shops, those are something you can get anywhere around New York City. On the tables, the temporary stands they set up all around the city. Those are your Kate Slade, Grucci, friend. You will be approached by a little Chinese lady if you get off the bus right here. You'll be approached by a half a dozen little Chinese ladies with picture postcards of their genuine, authentic counterfeit Coach, Kate Spade, Gucci handbags. And they really do look real, right down to the little badge of authenticity on the inside. So they're going to tell you like that? Come, follow me, follow me. They take you down a side street like this into the back door of a warehouse. And of course, when they say $50, you say, that's right. Actually, those genuine, authentic counterfeit bags are more than what they ask for here. They're more than like $30 to $50. They're asking $75 to $100. But they look just like the ones that cost $750 to $1,000 up at Bergdorf Goodman's. In a moment, we're going to be passing New York City's Little Italy. Or if you're from New York, or if you're a tour guide, a New York City tour guide, you call it very Little Italy. Postage stamp size of Little Italy. Over the last 35, 40 years or so, our Little Italy here in Manhattan has been shrinking to the point where it is now basically a collection of about 5 or 6 dozen quaint Italian restaurants on about 10 blocks of Mulberry Street, a little bit off on the side streets.
Oh.
Used to cover 3 or 4 square miles of lower Manhattan. And it is now less than 1 square mile here. In fact, there are fewer than 1,000 people of Italian ethnicity still residing in the neighborhood that we still affectionately refer to as Little Italy. Chinatown, on the other hand, has been growing exponentially to the point where when people now ask me, where is Little Italy? I tell them, it's in the middle of Chinatown. What else would you expect to find? There's Little Italy coming up on our left, Mulberry Street. So it's really kind of like a Disney World Little Italy nowadays. Restaurants really are good. But all the restaurateurs that operate their restaurants here go home to New Jersey and Long Island. They don't live here. There are other Italian communities in New York. If you want a real Little Italy experience, you got to go to the Bronx, the Arthur Avenue section of the Bronx. An immigration law that excluded any new Chinese immigration to the United States right up until 1943. And then after World War II, China went communist, providing more obstacles to Chinese immigration to the United States. And we're going to make our right turn here. Once arch here over the Manhattan Bridge in the top, there's a bas-relief sculpture depicting a scene of cowboys chasing buffaloes, which from McDonald's and Chinese over the entrance. Fujianese. Immigrants, largely Fujianese population of New York City's Chinatown, erected this sculpture of Lin Jiju to prove that they were anti-drug. Side of the pedestal of those Native Americans, not to be confused with Indians. Right here on our left, it's the federal courthouse. And Thurgood Marshall, as you probably know, was the first black Supreme Court justice. I think what's even more impressive than that is that he was the successful lead attorney for the plaintiffs in the case of Brown versus the Board of Education. Up ahead of us on the left is the New York City Municipal Building. New York City Municipal Building, built in 1915. The 2 things you can do there is fight or pay your parking ticket and get your marriage license. And you can be married here in a civil ceremony. We're going to keep going straight. You can even get your wedding rings here for just $18. Let's wait behind this truck. He's going to move out. We certainly don't want to get on the bridge. We couldn't. That step out a little bit to our presentation. To Lower Manhattan. On our left, the Orange Cube by the late Japanese-American sculptor Isamu Noguchi. I say Japanese-American, and I always mean to say the late National Treasure. That's the National Treasure. This is actually the third Trinity Church, built in 1846. The first one was built in 1697, chartered by King William III of England. And First Trinity Church, one of the people who helped build it, one of the richest and most states were president. And we're not going to get off here. I just want you guys to look back over your right shoulder. You see the Trinity root. Some of you heard me talking about that in the churchyard at St. Paul. The Trinity root was cast from the root of great sycamore trees. Just inside the park here, you see the sphere that I mentioned earlier. This is the sphere I showed you a photo of that stood in the churchyard stood in the plaza of the World Trade Center for almost 30 years. Also in Battery Park, beyond the sphere, is the department store, having nothing to do with the realtors. Century 21, you get the highest fashion garments, as well as luggage, jewelry, watches, small appliances, all kinds of things here at a deep discount. Yeah, you see photos, you see artist renditions on the fence here as we pass of the forthcoming World Trade Center and the Memorial Museum. That's going to be moved back to the site, to the Memorial Museum. 170 feet as part of the restoration and renovation of this neighborhood. And in that building is where two young comics first met, became partners, and first performed their classic comedy skit, Who's On First? Bud Abbott with Costello. Coming up again on our right, Mary Poppins at the New Amsterdam Theater. The New Amsterdam Theater, built in 1906, was the home of Ziegfeld's Collies in the 1920s. This is where the Lion King, our right turn. If you look out the left side windows while we're in the H. Craig Severance. And when Craig Severance heard that Walter Chrysler asked Mr. Van Allen to build him the world's tallest building, he said, we'll just see about that. And they started racing to build the world's tallest building.
I got him on video.
Van Allen, here at the Chrysler building, topped out at 925 feet, which he said was going to be the final height of his building. And so his old partner, H. Craig Severance, continued building until he got up to 927 feet, topped out, and said he had the tallest building in the world. What he didn't know was that Chrysler and Van Allen's again. And we are now in the Fashion District, formerly the Garment District of New York. On our left, the Fashion Walk of Fame, a lovely sculpture of a man on his sewing machine by the artist Judith Weller, and a great giant button and needle indicating we're in the Fashion District. A big tradition here in New York, too. If you live here in New York, if you go to where the parade starts the night before to watch the big balloon being blown up next to the Museum of Natural History. Railroad station. And on the other side of it, the lovely Hotel Pennsylvania. Made famous in the song by Artie Shaw. Famous in the song by Artie Shaw and his orchestra, Pennsylvania 65000. Glenn Miller. That's what I meant, Glenn Miller. Sounds just like Artie Shaw.